Switzerland is a landlocked country located in west-central Europe. It is bordered by Italy to the south, France to the west, Germany to the north and Austria and Liechtenstein to the east. Switzerland is geographically divided among the Swiss Plateau, the Alps and the Jura. The Alps occupy the greater part of the territory, whereas most of the country's population of 9 million are concentrated on the plateau, which hosts its largest cities and economic centers, including Zurich, Geneva, and Basel. Switzerland originates from the old Swiss Confederacy established in the late Middle Ages, following a series of military successes against Austria and Burgundy. The Federal Charter of 1291 is considered the country's founding document. Swiss independence from the Holy Roman Empire was formally recognized in the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. Switzerland has maintained a policy of armed neutrality since the 16th century and has not fought an international war since 1815. It joined the United Nations only in 2002 but pursues an active foreign policy that includes frequent involvement in peacebuilding. Switzerland is the birthplace of the Red Cross and hosts the headquarters or offices of most major international institutions including the WTO, WHO, ILO, FIFA, WEF, and the UN. It is a founding member of the European Free Trade Association, EFTA, but not part of the European Union, the European Economic Area or the Eurozone. However, it participates in the European Single Market and the Schengen area. Switzerland is a federal republic composed of 26 cantons with federal authorities based in Bern. Switzerland is one of the world's most developed countries with the highest nominal wealth per adult and the 8th highest gross domestic product, GDP, per capita. Switzerland performs highly on several international metrics including economic competitiveness and democratic governance. Cities such as Zurich, Geneva, and Basel rank among the highest in terms of quality of life, albeit with some of the highest costs of living. Switzerland holds an international reputation for its established banking sector alongside its distinctive recognition for their watchmaking and chocolate production. It has 4 main linguistic and cultural regions: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. Although most Swiss are German-speaking, national identity is fairly cohesive, being rooted in a common historical background, shared values such as federalism and direct democracy, and Alpine symbolism. Swiss identity transcends language, ethnicity, and religion, leading to Switzerland being described as a willens nation of volition rather than a nation-state. The English name Switzerland is a portmanteau of Switzer, an obsolete term for a Swiss person used during the 16th to 19th centuries, and land. The Swiss began to adopt the name for themselves after the Swabian War of 1499. The oldest traces of hominid existence in Switzerland date to about 150,000 years ago. The oldest known farming settlements in Switzerland, found at Gacklingen, date to around 5300 BC. The earliest known tribes formed the Hallstatt and Latin cultures, named after archaeological site of Latin on the north side of Lake Neuchatel. After Orgetorix's mysterious death, the Helvetii tribe continued their migration but decisively defeated Julius Caesar's armies at the Battle of Bibracte in present-day eastern France. The 1st and 2nd century AD was an age of prosperity on the Swiss plateau. Towns such as Aventicum, Iulia Equestris, and Augusta Raurica reached a remarkable size, while hundreds of agricultural estates, villi rustici, were established in the countryside. During the early modern period of Swiss history, growing authoritarianism of patriciate families combined with a financial crisis in the wake of 30 Years' War led to Swiss Peasant War of 1653. In the background to this struggle, conflict between Catholic and Protestant cantons persisted, erupting further violence at First War of Vilmergen in 1656 and Toggenburg War or Second War of Vilmergen in 1712. In 1798, the revolutionary French government invaded Switzerland and imposed a new unified constitution. When war broke out between France and its rivals, Russian and Austrian forces invaded Switzerland. The war convinced most Swiss of the need for unity and strength. Swiss from all strata of society, whether Catholic or Protestant, from the liberal or conservative current, realized that the cantons would profit more from merging their economic and religious interests. Thus, while the rest of Europe saw revolutionary uprisings, Swiss drew up a constitution that provided for a federal layout, much of it inspired by the American. Switzerland was not invaded during either world wars. During World War I, Switzerland was home to revolutionary and founder of Soviet Union Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, Vladimir Lenin, who remained there until 1917. Swiss neutrality was seriously questioned by the short-lived Grimm-Hoffmann affair in 1917. In 1920, Switzerland joined the League of Nations, which was based in Geneva after it was exempted from military requirements. During World War II, detailed invasion plans were drawn up by the Germans, but Switzerland was never attacked. Switzerland was able to remain independent through a combination of military deterrence, concessions to Germany and good fortune, as larger events during the war intervened. The Swiss military strategy changed from static defense at the borders to organized long-term attrition and withdrawal to strong, well-stockpiled positions high in the Alps, known as Reduit. Switzerland was an important base for espionage by both sides and often mediated communications between the Axis and Allied powers. Concessions reached a peak after a crucial rail link through Vichy, France was severed in 1942, leaving Switzerland together with Liechtenstein, entirely isolated from the wider world by Axis-controlled territory. Over the course of war, Switzerland interned over 300,000 refugees aided by International Red Cross based in Geneva. Strict immigration and asylum policies and the financial relationships with Nazi Germany raised controversy only at the end of 20th century. During the war, Swiss Air Force engaged aircraft of both sides, shooting down 11 intruding Luftwaffe planes in May and June 1940, forcing down other intruders after a change of policy following threats from Germany. Over 100 Allied bombers and their crews were interned. Between 1940 and 1945, Switzerland was bombed by the Allies, causing fatalities and property damage. Swiss expressed fear and concern that the bombings were intended to put pressure on Switzerland to end economic cooperation and neutrality with Nazi Germany. Court-martial proceedings took place in England. The US paid SFR 62M for reparations. Switzerland's attitude towards refugees was complicated and controversial over the course of war. It admitted as many as 300,000 refugees while refusing tens of thousands more, including Jews persecuted by the Nazis. After the war, Swiss government exported credits through the charitable fund known as Schweizerspende and donated to Marshall Plan to help Europe's recovery, efforts that ultimately benefited Swiss economy. Switzerland was the last Western republic, Principality of Liechtenstein followed in 1984, to grant women the right to vote. Extending across north and south side of Alps in west-central Europe, Switzerland encompasses diverse landscapes and climates across its 41,285 square kilometers. Switzerland lies between latitudes 45 degrees and 48 degrees north, and longitudes 5 degrees and 11 degrees east. It contains three basic topographical areas: Swiss Alps to the south, Swiss Plateau or Central Plateau, and Jura Mountains on the west. The Alps are a mountain range running across central and south of the country, constituting about 60% of the country's area. The majority of the population live on the Swiss plateau. The Swiss Alps host many glaciers, covering 1,063 square kilometers. From these originate the headwaters of several major rivers, such as Rhine, Inn, Ticino, and Rhone, which flow in the four cardinal directions, spreading across Europe. The hydrographic network includes several of the largest bodies of fresh water in Central and Western Europe, among which are Lake Geneva, Lake Constance, and Lake Maggiore. Switzerland has more than 1,500 lakes and contains 6% of Europe's freshwater stock. Lakes and glaciers cover about 6% of the national territory. Lake Geneva is the largest lake and is shared with France. The Rhone is both the main source and outflow of Lake Geneva. Lake Constance is the second largest and, like Lake Geneva, an intermediate step by the Rhine at the border with Austria and Germany. While Rhone flows into Mediterranean Sea at French Camargue region and Rhine flows into North Sea at Rotterdam, about 1,000 kilometers apart, both springs are only about 22 kilometers apart in the Swiss Alps. 90% of Switzerland's 65,000-kilometer-long network of rivers and streams has been straightened, dammed, canalized, or channeled underground to prevent natural disasters such as flooding, landslides, and avalanches. 80% of all Swiss drinking water comes from groundwater sources. 48 mountains are 4,000 meters or higher in height. At 4,634 meters, Monte Rosa is the highest, although Matterhorn, 4,478 meters, is the best known. Both are located within the Pennine Alps in canton of Valais on the border with Italy. The section of the Bernese Alps above the deep glacial Lauterbrunnen Valley, containing 72 waterfalls, is well known for the Jungfrau, 4,158 meters, Eger and Monch peaks, and its many picturesque valleys. In the southeast, the long Engadin Valley, encompassing St. Moritz, is also well known. The highest peak in the neighboring Bernina Alps is Piz Bernina, 4,049 meters. The Swiss plateau has greater open and hilly landscapes, partly forested, partly open pastures, usually with grazing herds or vegetable and fruit fields, but it is still hilly. Large lakes and the biggest Swiss cities are found there. Switzerland contains two small enclaves. Bussingen belongs to Germany while Campione d'Italia belongs to Italy. Switzerland has no exclaves. The Swiss climate is generally temperate but vary greatly across localities, from glacial conditions on mountaintops to near Mediterranean climate at Switzerland's southern tip. Some valley areas in the southern part of Switzerland offer cold hardy palm trees. Summers tend to be warm and humid at times with periodic rainfall, ideal for pastures or grazing. The less humid winters in the mountains may see weeks-long intervals of stable conditions. At the same time, lower lands tend to suffer from inversion during such periods, hiding the sun. A weather phenomenon known as the Föhn, with an identical effect to the Chinook wind, can occur any time and is characterized by an unexpectedly warm wind, bringing low relative humidity air to the north of Alps during rainfall periods on south-facing slopes. This works both ways across the Alps but is more efficient if blowing from the south due to the steeper step for oncoming wind. Valleys running south to north trigger the best effect. The driest conditions persist in all inner alpine valleys that receive less rain because arriving clouds lose a lot of their moisture content while crossing the mountains before reaching these areas. Large alpine areas such as Graubünden remain drier than pre-alpine areas, and as in the main valley of Valais, wine grapes are grown there. The wettest conditions persist in the high Alps and in Ticino Canton, which has much sun yet heavy bursts of rain occasionally. Precipitation tends to be spread moderately throughout the year with a peak in summer. Autumn is the driest season, winter receives less precipitation than summer, yet the weather patterns in Switzerland are not in a stable climate system. They can vary from year to year with no strict and predictable periods. Switzerland contains two terrestrial ecoregions, Western European broadleaf forests and Alps conifer and mixed forests. Switzerland's many small valleys separated by high mountains often host unique ecologies. The mountainous regions offer many plants not found at other altitudes. The climatic, geological and topographical conditions of the alpine region make for a fragile ecosystem that is particularly sensitive to climate change. About 85% of the population live in urban areas. Switzerland went from a largely rural country to an urban one from 1930 to 2000. After 1935, urban development claimed as much of the Swiss landscape as it did prior 2,000 years. Urban sprawl affects plateau, Jura, and alpine foothills, raising concerns about land use. During 21st century, population growth in urban areas is higher than in the countryside. Switzerland has a dense network of complementary large, medium, and small towns. The plateau is densely populated with about 400 people per kilometer square, and the landscape shows uninterrupted signs of human presence. The weight of the largest metropolitan areas, Zurich, Geneva to Lausanne, Basel, and Bern, tend to increase. The importance of these urban areas is greater than their population suggests. These urban centers are recognized for their high quality of life. Traditionally, Switzerland avoids alliances that might entail military, political, or direct economic action and has been neutral since the end of its expansion in 1515. Its policy of neutrality was internationally recognized at Congress of Vienna in 1815. Many international institutions have headquarters in Switzerland, partly because of its policy of neutrality. Geneva is the birthplace of Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, Geneva Conventions, and since 2006, hosts United Nations Human Rights Council. Even though Switzerland is one of the most recent countries to join United Nations, Palace of Nations in Geneva is the second biggest center for the United Nations after headquarters in New York. Switzerland was a founding member and hosted the League of Nations. Switzerland became a United Nations Security Council member for the 2023 to 2024 period. According to 2024 Global Peace Index, Switzerland is 6th most peaceful country in the world. Switzerland is a member of Schengen passport-free zone. Land border checkpoints apply on to goods movements but not people. The Swiss armed forces, including land forces and air force, are composed mostly of conscripts, male citizens aged from 20 to 34, in exceptional cases up to 50 years. Being a landlocked country, Switzerland has no navy. However, on lakes bordering neighboring countries, armed boats patrol. Swiss citizens are prohibited from serving in foreign armies except for the Swiss Guards of the Vatican or if they are dual citizens of a foreign country and reside there. Switzerland has a stable, prosperous, and high-tech economy. It is the world's wealthiest country per capita in multiple rankings. Basel is the capital of Switzerland's pharmaceutical industry, hosting Novartis, Roche, and many other players. It is one of the world's most important centers for life sciences industry. Switzerland is home to several large multinational corporations. The largest by revenue are Glencore, Gunvor, Nestlé, Mediterranean Shipping Company, Novartis, Hoffmann La Roche, ABB, Mercuria Energy Group and Adecco. Also, notable are UBS, Zurich Insurance, Richemont, Credit Suisse, Barry Callebaut, Swiss Re, Rolex, Tetra Pak, Swatch Group and Swiss International Airlines. Swiss scientists who played a key role in their discipline are Leonhard Euler, mathematics, Louis Agassiz, glaciology, Auguste Piccard, aeronautics, and Albert Einstein, physics. Geneva and nearby French department of Ain co-host the world's largest laboratory, CERN, dedicated to particle physics research. Another important research center is Paul Scherrer Institute. The Swiss Space Office involved in various space technologies and programs. It was one of the 10 founders of the European Space Agency in 1975 and is the 7th largest contributor to the ESA budget. In the private sector, several companies participate in the space industry are Oerlikon Space or Maxon Motors. Electricity generated in Switzerland is 56% from hydroelectricity and 39% from nuclear power. Zurich Airport is Switzerland's largest international flight gateway. The other international airports are Geneva Airport, Euro Airport Basel Mulhouse Freiburg, located in France, Bern Airport, Lugano Airport, St. Gallen Altenrhein Airport and Sion Airport. Swiss International Airlines is the flag carrier. Switzerland has an economic garbage disposal system based on recycling and energy-producing incinerators. As in other European countries, illegal disposal of garbage is heavily fined. In almost all Swiss municipalities, mandatory stickers or dedicated garbage bags allow the identification of disposable garbage. Population is about 9 million. Population growth was projected into 2035, due mostly to immigration. Like most of Europe, Switzerland faces an aging population with a fertility rate close to replacement level. Switzerland has one of the world's oldest populations, with an average age of 42.5 years. As of 2023, resident foreigners made up 26.3% of Switzerland's population. Most of them, 83%, were from European countries. Italy provided the largest single group of foreigners, 14.7% of total foreign population, followed closely by Germany, 14%, Portugal, 11.7%, France, 6.6%, Kosovo, 5.1%, Spain, 3.9%, Turkey, 3.1%, North Macedonia, 3.1%, Serbia, 2.8%, Austria, 2%, United Kingdom, 1.9%, Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1.3%, and Croatia, 1.3%. Immigrants from Sri Lanka, 1.3%, most of them former Tamil refugees, were the largest group of Asian origin, 7.9%. Switzerland has 4 national languages, mainly German, spoken natively by 62.8% of the population in 2016, French, 22.9%, spoken natively in the West, and Italian, 8.2%, spoken natively in the South. The fourth national language, Romansh, 0.5%, is a Romance language spoken locally in the southeastern trilingual canton of Grisons. Swiss residents are required to buy health insurance from private insurance companies, which in turn are required to accept every applicant. Among the annual most important cultural performances are Palio Festival, Lucerne Festival, Montreux Jazz Festival, Locarno International Film Festival and Art Basel. Many alpine areas and ski resorts attract visitors for winter sports as well as hiking and mountain biking in summer. The quieter seasons are spring and autumn. A traditional pastoral culture predominates in many areas and small farms are omnipresent in rural areas. Folk art is nurtured in organizations across the country. Switzerland most directly appears in music, dance, poetry, wood carving and embroidery. The Alphorn, a trumpet-like musical instrument made of wood, has joined yodeling and the accordion as epitomes of traditional Swiss music. Switzerland has no official state religion. Christianity is the predominant religion. Probably the most famous Swiss literary creation, Heidi, the story of an orphan girl who lives with her grandfather in the Alps, is one of the most popular children's books and has become a symbol of Switzerland. Her creator, Johanna Spyri, 1827–1901, wrote many books on similar themes. Freedom of the press and the right to free expression is guaranteed in the Constitution. Skiing, snowboarding and mountaineering are among the most popular sports, reflecting the nature of the country. Winter sports are practiced by natives and visitors. The bobsleigh was invented in St. Moritz. The first World Ski Championships were held in Mürren, 1931, and St. Moritz, 1934. The latter town hosted the second Winter Olympic Games in 1928 and the fifth edition in 1948. The most prominently watched sports in Switzerland are football and ice hockey. Bern is the capital of Switzerland, referred to as the Federal City. With a population of about 445,000 as of 2024, Bern is the fifth most populous city in Switzerland, behind Zurich, Geneva, Basel and Lausanne. Bern is also the capital of the canton of Bern, the second most populous of Switzerland's cantons. The official language is German, but the main spoken language is the local variant of the Alemannic Swiss German dialect, Bernese German. In 1983, the historic old town, Altstadt von Bern, in the center of Bern became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is notably surrounded by the Aire, a major river of the Swiss plateau. Although fortified settlements were established since antiquity, the medieval city of Bern was founded by Zähringer ruling family, probably in 1191 by Berthold V, Duke of Zähringen. Bern was made a free imperial city in 1218 and in 1353, it joined the Swiss Confederacy, becoming one of its 8 early cantons. Since then, Bern became a large city-state and a prominent actor of Swiss history by pursuing a policy of sovereign territorial expansion. Since the 15th century, the city was progressively rebuilt and acquired its current characteristics. Bern was made the federal city in 1848. From about 5,000 inhabitants in the 15th century, the city passed the 100,000 mark in the 1920s. Bern lies on the Swiss plateau in the canton of Bern, slightly west of the center of Switzerland and 20 kilometers north of the Bernese Alps. The countryside around Bern was formed by glacier during the most recent ice age. The two mountains closest to Bern are Gurten with a height of 864 meters and Banteiger with a height of 947 meters. The city was originally built on a hilly peninsula surrounded by the river Aire but outgrew natural boundaries by the 19th century. A number of bridges have been built to allow the city to expand beyond the Aire. Bern is built on very uneven ground. An elevation difference of up to 60 meters exists between the inner city districts on the Aire, Matt, Marzili, and the higher ones, Kirchenfeld, Langas. Bern has an area of 51.62 kilometers square. Of Bern's total land area, 32.8% is heavily forested. Of the agricultural land, 13.3% is used for growing crops and 4.4% is designated to be used as pasture. Local rivers and streams provide all the water in the municipality. The structure of Bern's city centre is largely medieval and has been recognized by UNESCO as a cultural World Heritage Site. Perhaps its most famous site is the Zittglocke, Bernese German for time bell, an elaborate medieval clock tower with moving puppets. It also has an impressive 15th century Gothic cathedral, the Munster, and a 15th century town hall. Thanks to 6 kilometers of arcades, the Old Town boasts one of the longest covered shopping promenades in Europe. Since the 16th century, Bern has had a bear pit, the Bärengraben, at the far end of the Niedekbruck to house its heraldic animals. The 4 bears are now kept in an open-air enclosure nearby, and 2 other young bears, a present by the Russian president, are kept in Dahlhölsli Zoo. The Federal Palace, Bundeshaus, in Bern, built from 1857 to 1902, which houses the national parliament, government, and part of the federal administration, can be visited. Albert Einstein lived in a flat at Kramgasse 49, the site of the Einstein House, from 1903 to 1905, the year the Annus Mirabilis papers were published. The Rose Garden, Rosengarten, in Bern, a well-kept rosarium on a hill, was converted into a park from a former cemetery in 1913. From it, visitors can enjoy a scenic panoramic view of the medieval town centre. There are 11 Renaissance allegorical statues on public fountains in Bern Old Town. Nearly all the 16th century fountains, except the Zähringer Fountain, which was created by Hans Hiltbrand, are the work of the Freiburg master Hans Gieng. One of the more interesting fountains is the Kindlerfresserbrunnen, Bernese German, child-eater fountain, which is claimed to represent a Jew, the Greek god Kronos, or a fastnacht figure meant to frighten disobedient children. Bern's most recent site is the set of fountains in front of the Federal Palace. It was inaugurated on the 1st of August, 2004. The Universal Postal Union is situated in Bern. Bern is home to 114 Swiss heritage sites of national significance. It includes the entire Old Town, which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and many sites within and around it. Some of the most notable in the Old Town include the cathedral, which was started in 1421 and is the tallest cathedral in Switzerland, Zittglogge and Karfigturm Towers, which mark 2 successive expansions of the Old Town, and Holy Ghost Church, which is one of the largest Swiss Reformed churches in Switzerland. Within the Old Town, there are 11 16th century fountains, most attributed to Hans Gieng, that are on the list. Bern has several dozen cinemas. As is customary in German Switzerland, films are generally in German. Some films in select cinemas are shown in their original language with German and French subtitles. Festivals held in Bern are Bijaz Summer and Winter Festival, Buskers Bern Street Music Festival, Goethen Festival, Internationals Jazz Festival Bern, and Taktlos Festival. The Musikpreis des Kantons Bern is an annual musical event where outstanding musicians which styles shape the Bern music scene are honored. The Sibylle Merit, Onion Market, is an annual fair held on the 4th Monday in November. Bern is served by a dense network of trains, trams, trolleybuses, and conventional motorbuses. The Bern S-Bahn is Switzerland's second busiest. A funicular railway called the Marsilibahn leads from the Marzili district to the Federal Palace. With a length of 106 meters, it is the second shortest public railway in Europe after the Zagreb funicular. Several air bridges connect the old parts of the city with the newer districts outside of the peninsula. Bern Airport, colloquially called Bernbelp or Belpmoos, located outside the city near the town of Belp, as of March 2021 mostly serves general aviation and charter flights. Zurich Airport, Geneva Airport, and Euro Airport Basel-Mulhouse Freiburg serve as gateways for air traffic, all reachable in less than 2 hours by train or car from Bern. The city has made efforts to make Bern the bicycle capital of Switzerland through the creation of better infrastructure such as dedicated cycle paths. Publibike operates a bike-sharing system. Basel is commonly considered to be the cultural capital of Switzerland, and the city is famous for its many museums, including Kunstmuseum, which is first collection of art accessible to the public in the world and the largest museum of art in Switzerland, the Fondation Baylor located in Riehen, The Museum Tingley and the Museum of Contemporary Art, which is the first public museum of contemporary art in Europe. 40 museums are spread throughout the city canton, making Basel one of the largest cultural centers in relation to its size and population in Europe. The University of Basel, Switzerland's oldest university founded in 1460, and the city's centuries-long commitment to humanism have made Basel a safe haven at times of political unrest in other parts of Europe for such notable people as Erasmus of Rotterdam, the Holbein family, Friedrich Nietzsche, Carl Jung, and in the 20th century also Hermann Hesse and Karl Jaspers. Basel was the seat of a prince-bishopric starting in the 11th century and joined the Swiss Confederacy in 1501. The city has been a commercial hub and an important cultural center since the Renaissance and emerged as a center for the chemical and pharmaceutical industries in 20th century. In 1897, Basel was chosen by Theodor Herzl as the location for the First World Zionist Congress, and altogether the Congress was held there 10 times over a time span of 50 years, more than in any other location. The city is also home to the world headquarters of the Bank for International Settlements. The name of the city is internationally known through institutions like the Basel Accords, Art Basel and FC Basel. Basel is Switzerland's main center for the pharmaceutical industry, hosting both Novartis and Roche. In 2019, Basel was ranked the 10th most livable city in the world by Mercer. Basel is located in northwestern Switzerland. It is close to the point where the Swiss, French and German borders meet, and Basel also has suburbs in France and Germany. Basel has an area of 23.91 square kilometers. Basel Ferry, a somewhat anachronistic yet still widely used system of reaction ferry boats, links the two shores. There are 4 ferries, each situated approximately midway between 2 bridges. Each is attached by a cable to a block that rides along another cable spanning the river at a height of 20 to 30 meters. To cross the river, the ferryman orients the boat around 45 degrees from the current so that the current pushes the boat across the river. This form of transportation is therefore completely hydraulically driven, requiring no outside energy source. Border crossings. Basel is located at the meeting point of France, Germany, and Switzerland. Because it sits on the Swiss national border and is beyond the Jura Mountains, the city is indefensible during wartime. It has numerous road and rail crossings between Switzerland and the other 2 countries. With Switzerland joining the Schengen area on the 12th of December, 2008, immigration checks were no longer carried out at the crossings. However, Switzerland did not join the European Union Customs Union, though it did join the EU single market, and customs checks are still conducted at or near the crossings. Railway crossing from Basel to France by Basel SBB railway station. Between Basel SBB and Basel Badischer Bahnhof, Basel Badischer Bahnhof and all other railway property and stations on the right bank of the Rhine belong to DB and are classed as German customs territory. Immigration and customs checks are conducted at the platform exit tunnel for passengers leaving trains here. Additionally, there are many footpaths and cycle tracks crossing the border between Basel and Germany. Important trade shows include Art Basel, the world's most important fair for modern and contemporary art, Basel World, watches and jewelry, Swissbau, construction and real estate, and IGHO, hotels, catering, takeaway, care. The Swiss Sample Fair, Schweizer Mustermesse, was the largest and oldest consumer fair in Switzerland. It was held from 2007 to 2019 and took place in Kleinbasel on the right bank of the Rhine. Main sites in Basel: the red sandstone Munster, one of the foremost late Romanesque or early Gothic buildings in the Upper Rhine, was badly damaged in the Great Earthquake of 1356, rebuilt in the 14th and 15th century, extensively reconstructed in the mid-19th century and further restored in the late 20th century. A memorial to Erasmus lies inside the Munster. The City Hall from the 16th century is located on the market square and is decorated with fine murals on the outer walls and on the walls of the inner court. Basel is also host to an array of buildings by internationally renowned architects. These include the Baylor Foundation by Renzo Piano or the Vitra Complex in nearby Weil am Rhein, composed of buildings by architects such as Zaha Hadid, Fire Station, Frank Gehry, Design Museum, Alvaro Cesar Vieira, Factory Building, and Tadaro Ando, Conference Center. Basel also features buildings by Mario Botta, Jean Tingley Museum and Bank of International Settlements, and Hazorg and de Meuron, whose architectural practice is in Basel, and who are best known as the architects of Tate Modern in London, the Olympia Stadium, which was designed for use throughout the 2008 Summer Olympics and Paralympics. The city received the Walker Prize in 1996. The city of Basel is a center for numerous fairs and events all year round. One of the most important fairs for contemporary art worldwide is the Art Basel, which was founded in 1970 by Ernst Behler and takes place in June each year. Baselworld, the watch and jewelry show, Uhren und Schmuckmesse, one of the biggest fairs of its kind in Europe, is held every year as well, and attracts a great number of tourists and dealers to the city. Live marketing company and fair organizer MCH Group has its head office in Basel. The Carnival of the city of Basel, Basler Fastnacht, is a major cultural event in the year. The carnival is the biggest in Switzerland and attracts large crowds every year, despite the fact that it starts at exactly 4 o'clock in the morning, Morgenstreik, on a winter Monday. The Fastnacht asserts Basel's Protestant history by commencing the revelry 5 days after Ash Wednesday and continuing exactly 72 hours. Almost all study and work in the old city cease. Dozens of fife and drum clubs parade in medieval guild tradition with fantastical masks and illuminated lanterns. Basel Tattoo, founded in 2006 by the local top-secret drum corps, has grown to be the world's second largest military tattoo in terms of performers and budget after the Edinburgh Military Tattoo. The Basel Tattoo Annual Parade, with an estimated 125,000 visitors, is considered the largest event in Basel. The event is now sponsored by the Swiss Federal Department of Defense, Civil Protection and Sport, DDPS, making it the official military tattoo of Switzerland. The city will host the Eurovision Song Contest 2025 at the Street Jakobshalle Arena. Zoo Basel, with over 1.7 million visitors per year, is the most visited tourist attraction in Basel and the second most visited tourist attraction in Switzerland. Established in 1874, Zoo Basel is the oldest zoo in Switzerland and number of animals, the largest. Through its history, Zoo Basel has had several breeding successes, such as the first worldwide Indian rhinoceros birth and greater flamingo hatch in a zoo. These and other achievements led Forbes Travel to rank Zoo Basel as one of the 15 best zoos in the world. Geneva is the second most populous city in Switzerland, after Zurich, and the most populous of the French-speaking Romandie. Situated in the southwest of the country, where the Rhône exits Lake Geneva, it is a center for international diplomacy. Geneva hosts the highest number of international organizations in the world. The city of Geneva, Ville de Genève, had a population of 639,000 in 2024 within its municipal territory of 16 kilometers square. The Geneva metropolitan area, as officially defined by Eurostat, including suburbs and exurbs in Vaud and the French departments of Aisne and Haute-Savoie, extends over 2,292 kilometers square. Geneva is a global city, a financial center and a worldwide center for diplomacy due to the presence of numerous international organizations, including the headquarters of many agencies of the United Nations and the ICRC and IFRC of the Red Cross. In the aftermath of World War I, it hosted the League of Nations. It was where the Geneva Conventions on Humanitarian Treatment in War were signed. It shares a unique distinction with municipalities such as New York City, global headquarters of the UN, Basel, Bank for International Settlements, and Strasbourg, Council of Europe, as a city which serves as the headquarters of at least one critical international organization without being the capital of a country. Geneva has been referred to as the world's most compact metropolis and the peace capital. In 2023, Geneva was ranked as the world's 10th most important financial center by the Global Financial Centers Index, second in Europe behind London. In 2019, Geneva was ranked among the 10 most livable cities in the world by Mercer, alongside Zurich and Basel, as well as the 13th most expensive city in the world. In a UBS ranking of global cities in 2018, Geneva was ranked first for gross earnings, second most expensive, and fourth in purchasing power. Geneva is located at 46° north, 6° east, at the southwestern end of Lake Geneva where the Rhône flows out. It is surrounded by 3 mountain chains, each belonging to the Jura. The Jura main range lies northwestward, the Vosges southward and the Salive southeastward. Geneva covers an area of 15.93 kilometers square, while the area of the canton is 282 kilometers square, including the 2 small exclaves of Saligny in Vaud. The part of the lake that is attached to Geneva has an area of 38 kilometers square and is sometimes referred to as Petit Lac, small lake. The canton has only a 4.5 kilometers long border with the rest of Switzerland. Of 107.5 kilometers of the border, 103 are shared with France, the Departement de l'Aisne to the north and west and the Departement de la Haute-Savoie to the south and east. Of the land in Geneva, 0.24 kilometers square or 1.5% is used for agricultural purposes, while 0.5 kilometers square or 3.1% is forested. The rest of the land, 14.63 kilometers square or 91.8%, is built up, buildings or roads, 0.49 kilometers square or 3.1%, is either rivers or lakes, and 0.02 kilometers square or 0.1% is wasteland. The altitude of Geneva is 373.6 meters and corresponds to the altitude of the largest of the Pierres du Niton, 2 large rocks emerging from the lake which date from the last ice age. This rock was chosen by General Guillaume Henri Dufour as the reference point for surveying in Switzerland. The second main river of Geneva is the Arve, which flows into the Rhône just west of the city centre. Mont Blanc can be seen from Geneva and is an hour's drive from the city. Ice storms near Lac Léman are normal in the winter. Geneva can be affected by the Bise, a northeasterly wind. This can lead to severe icing in winter. In summer of Geneva, many people swim in the lake and patronize public beaches such as Genève Plage and the Bains des Parcs. The city, in certain years, receives snow during colder months. The nearby mountains are subject to substantial snowfall and are suitable for skiing. Many world-renowned ski resorts such as Verbier and Crans-Montana are less than 3 hours away by car. Mont-Salive, 1,379 meters, just across the border in France, dominates the southerly view from the city centre, and Mont Blanc, the highest of the Alpine range, is visible from most of the city, towering high above Chamonix, which, along with Morzine, La Grande Bornand, La Clusaz, and resorts of the Grand Massif such as Samoons, Marillen, and Flaine, are the closest French skiing destinations to Geneva. There are 82 buildings or sites in Geneva that are listed as Swiss heritage sites of national significance, and and the entire old city of Geneva is part of the inventory of Swiss heritage sites. Religious buildings in Geneva are Cathedral Saint-Pierre et Chapelle des Maccabees, Notre Dame Church, Russian Church, Saint-Germain Church, Temple de la Fusterie, Temple de l'Auditoire. Traditions and customs. Geneva observes Jeûne Genevois on the first Thursday following the first Sunday in September. By local tradition, this commemorates the date news of the Saint Bartholomew's Day massacre of Huguenots reached Geneva. Geneva celebrates l'Escalade on the weekend nearest the 12th of December, celebrating the defeat of the surprise attack of troops sent by Charles Emmanuel I, Duke of Savoy during the night of 11 to the 12th of December, 1602. Festive traditions include chocolate cauldrons filled with vegetable-shaped marzipan treats and the Escalade procession on horseback in 17th century armor. Geneva has also been organizing a course de l'Escalade, which means climbing race. This race takes place in Geneva's Old Town and has been popular across all ages. Non-competitive racers dress up in fancy costumes while walking in the race. Since 1818, a particular chestnut tree has been used as the official herald of the spring in Geneva. The Sortier, Secretary of the Parliament of the Canton of Geneva, observes the tree and notes the day of arrival of the first bud. While this event has no practical effect, the Sortier issues a formal press release and the local newspaper will usually mention the news. As this is one of the world's oldest records of a plant's reaction to climatic conditions, researchers have been interested to note that the first bud has been appearing earlier and earlier in the year. During the 19th century, many dates were in March or April. In recent years, they have usually been in late February, sometimes earlier. In 2002, the first bud appeared unusually early, on the 7th of February and then again on the 29th of December of the same year. The following year, one of the hottest years recorded in Europe, was a year with no bud. In 2008, the first bud also appeared early, on the 19th of February. The Opera House, Grand Theatre de Genève, which officially opened in 1876, was partly destroyed by a fire in 1951 and reopened in 1962. It has the largest stage in Switzerland. It features opera and dance performances, recitals, concerts, and theatre. The Victoria Hall is used for classical music concerts. It is home of Orchestre de la Suisse Romande. Every summer, Fêtes de Genève are organized in Geneva. According to Radio Television Suisse, in 2013 hundreds of thousands of people came to Geneva to see the annual hour-long grand firework display of the Fêtes de Genève. An annual music festival takes place in June in Geneva. Groups of artists perform in different parts of the city. In 2016, the festival celebrated its 25th anniversary. Other Geneva annual festivals are Fête de l'Olivier, a festival of Arabic music, organized by ICAM since 1980, and the Genevan Brass Festival, founded by Christoph Sturzenegger in 2010. Swiss Alps. The Alpine region of Switzerland, conventionally referred to as the Swiss Alps, represents a major natural feature of the country and is, along with the Swiss Plateau and the Swiss portion of the Jura Mountains, one of its three main physiographic regions. The Swiss Alps extend over both the Western Alps and the Eastern Alps, encompassing an area sometimes called Central Alps. While the northern ranges from the Bernese Alps to the Appenzell Alps are entirely in Switzerland, the southern ranges from the Mont Blanc Massif to the Bernina Massif are shared with other countries such as France, Italy, Austria, and Liechtenstein. The Swiss Alps comprise almost all the highest mountains of the Alps, such as Dufourspitz, 4,634 meters, the Dom, 4,545 meters, the Liskam, 4,527 meters, the Weisshorn, 4,506 meters, and the Matterhorn, 4,478 meters. The other following major summits can be found in this list of mountains of Switzerland. Since the Middle Ages, transit across the Alps played an important role in history. The region north of St. Gotthard Pass became the nucleus of the Swiss Confederacy in the early 14th century. The Alps cover 60% of Switzerland's total 41,285 square kilometers surface area, making it one of the most alpine countries. Despite the fact that Switzerland covers only 14% of the Alps' total 192,753 square kilometers area, 48 out of 82 Alpine 4000s are located in the Swiss Alps, and practically all of the remaining 34 are within 20 kilometers of the country's border. The glacier of the Swiss Alps cover an area of 1,220 square kilometers, 3% of the Swiss territory, representing 44% of the total glaciated area in the Alps, i.e. 2,800 square kilometers. The Swiss Alps are situated south of the Swiss plateau and north of the national border. The limit between the Alps and the plateau runs from Vevey on the shores of Lake Geneva to Rorschach on the shores of Lake Constance, passing close to the cities of Thun and Lucerne. The not well-defined regions in Switzerland that lie on the margin of the Alps, especially those on the north side, are called the Swiss Prealps. The Swiss Prealps are mainly made of limestone and generally do not exceed 2,500 meters. The Alpine cantons from highest to lowest are Valais, Bern, Graubünden, Uy, Glarus, Ticino, St. Gallen, Vaud, Obwalden, Nidwalden, Schlwz, Appenzell Innerrhoden, Appenzell Ausserrhoden, Freiburg, Lucerne, and Zug. The countries with which Switzerland shares mountain ranges of the Alps are from west to east: France, Italy, Austria, and Liechtenstein. The Alps are usually divided into two main parts, the Western Alps and Eastern Alps, whose division is along the Rhine from Lake Constance to the Splugen Pass. The Western Ranges occupy the greatest part of Switzerland, while the more numerous Eastern Ranges are much smaller and are all situated in the canton of Graubünden. The latter is part of the Central Eastern Alps, except the Ortler Alps, which belong to the Southern Limestone Alps. The Pennine, Bernese, and Bernina Range are the highest ranges of the country. They contain respectively 38, 9, and 1 summit over 4,000 meters. The lowest range is the Appenzell Alps, culminating at 2,500 meters. The north side of the Swiss Alps is drained by the Rhône, Rhine, and Inn, which is part of the Danube Basin, while the south side is mainly drained by the Ticino, Po Basin. The rivers on the north empty into the Mediterranean, North and Black Sea. On the south the Po empty in the Adriatic Sea. The major triple watersheds in the Alps are located within the country. They are Piz Lunghin, Weiten-Wasserenstark, and Monter-Forcola. Between the Weiten-Wasserenstark and Piz Lunghin runs the European watershed separating the basin of the Atlantic, the North Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea, Adriatic, and the Black Sea. The European watershed lies only partially on the main chain. Switzerland possesses 6% of Europe's freshwater, and is sometimes referred to as the water tower of Europe. Since the highest dams are located in alpine regions, many large mountain lakes are artificial and are used as hydroelectric reservoirs. Some large artificial lakes can be found above 2,300 meters, but natural lakes larger than 1 kilometer square are generally below 1,000 meters, with the exceptions of lakes in the Engadin such as Lake Sils and Iskinen in the Bernese Oberland. The melting of low-altitude glacier can generate new lakes, such as the 0.25 kilometers square large Triftsee, which formed between 2002 and 2003. The glacier in the Swiss Alps have lost around half their volume during the last 90 to 120 years. The composition of the great tectonic units reflects the history of the formation of the Alps. The last glaciations greatly transformed Switzerland's landscape. Many valleys of the Swiss Alps are U-shaped due to glacial erosion. During the maximum extension of the Würm glaciation, 18,000 years ago, the glacier completely covered the Swiss plateau, before retreating and leaving remnants only in high mountain areas. In modern times, the Aleth Glacier in the western Bernese Alps is the largest and longest in the Alps, reaching a maximum depth of 900 meters at Concordia-Platz. Along with the Fischer and Our Glacier, the region became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2001. An effect of the retreat of the Rhine Glacier some 10,000 years ago was the Flims rockslide, the biggest still visible landslide worldwide. As the temperature decreases with altitude, 0.56 degrees Celsius per 100 meters on yearly average, 3 different altitudinal zones, each having distinct climate, are found in the Swiss Alps: subalpine zone, alpine zone, and glacial zone. The subalpine zone is the region that lies below the tree line. It is the most important region as it is the largest of the three and contains almost all human settlements as well as the productive areas. The forests are mainly composed of conifers above 1,200 to 1,400 meters. The deciduous tree forest is confined to lower elevations. The upper limit of the subalpine zone is located at about 1,800 meters on the north side of the Alps and about 2,000 meters on the south side. It can, however, differ in some regions such as the Appenzell Alps, 1,600 meters, or the Engadin Valley, 2,300 meters. The alpine zone is situated above the tree line and is clear of trees due to low average temperatures. It contains mostly grass and small plants along with mountain flowers. Below the permafrost limit, at about 2,600 meters, the alpine meadows are often used as pastures. Some villages can still be found on the lowest altitudes such as Riederalp, 1,940 meters, or Juff, 2,130 meters. The extent of the alpine zone is limited by the first permanent snow. Its altitude greatly varies depending on the location and orientation. It comprises between 2,800 and 3,200 meters. The glacial zone is the area of permanent snow and ice. When the steepness of the slope is not too high, it results in an accumulation and compaction of snow, which transforms into ice. The glacier formed then flows down the valley and can reach as far down as 1,500 meters, the upper Grindelwald Glacier. Where the slopes are too steep, the snow accumulates to form overhanging seracs, which periodically fall off due to the downward movement of the glacier and cause ice avalanches. The Bernese Alps, Pennine Alps and Mont Blanc Massif contain most of the glaciated areas in the Alps. Except for research stations such as the Sphinx Observatory, no settlements are to be found in those regions. Impact of glacial melting. Due to the change in weather patterns, the summers are expected to continue getting warmer and drier, while the winters are expected to become moister. This change in the weather increases the chances of flooding with heavier rainfall, the melting of permafrost zones, a change in the geography and wildlife, and the occurrence of more deadly rock slides. Furthermore, natural hazards are occurring more frequently, such as floods, avalanches, and landslides. Additionally, the water supply that the glacier originally provided is on the decline, which is problematic for producing energy, agricultural practices, and other human use. Finally, the glacial melting puts the economy at risk because there will be less incoming financial revenue from the tourism and recreation services that these glacier and ecosystems typically provide. All of these impacts will disrupt the nearby communities and require that updated infrastructure and safety measures be put into place to prevent mass destruction. Travel and tourism. Tourism in the Swiss Alps began with the first ascents of the main peaks of the Alps, Jungfrau in 1811, Piz Bernina in 1850, Monte Rosa in 1855, Matterhorn in 1856, Dom in 1858, Weisshorn in 1861, mostly by British mountain climbers accompanied by the local guides. The construction of facilities for tourists started in the mid-19th century with the building of hotels and mountain huts, creation of the Swiss Alpine Club in 1863, and the opening of mountain train lines, Rigi in 1873, Pilatus in 1889, Gornergrat in 1898. The Jungfraubahn opened in 1912. It leads to the highest railway station in Europe, the Jungfraujoch. Summer tourism. Switzerland enjoys a 62,000 kilometers network of well-maintained trails, of which 23,000 are located in mountainous areas. Many mountains attract a large number of alpinists from around the world, especially the 4,000 meters summits and the Great North Faces, Eger, Matterhorn, and Piz Badile. The large winter resorts are also popular destinations in summer, as most of aerial tramways operate through the year, enabling hikers and mountaineers to reach high altitudes without much effort. The Klein Matterhorn is the highest summit of the European continent to be served by cable car. Winter tourism. The major destinations for skiing and other winter sports are located in Valais, Bernese Oberland, and Graubünden. Some villages are car-free and can be accessed only with public transports such as Riederalp and Bettmeralp. Zermatt and Saas-Fee have both summer ski areas. The ski season starts from as early as November and runs to as late as May. However, the majority of ski resorts in Switzerland tend to open in December and run through to April. Some major snow sporting activities are skiing, snowboarding, snow sled biking, downhill snow mountain biking and snowmobiling, as well as snowmobile tours and rides. The Swiss Alps and Switzerland enjoy an extensive transport network. Virtually every mountain village can be reached by public transport, either by rail, bus, funicular, cable car, or usually a combination of them. Most of the mountain regions are within 1 to 3 hours travel of Switzerland's main cities and their respective airport. The Engadine in Graubünden is between 3 and 6 hours away from the large cities. The train journey itself, with the panoramic Glacier Express or Bernina Express, is popular with tourists. The Engadine Airport near St. Moritz at an altitude of 1,704 meters is the highest in Europe. The crossing of the Alps is a key issue at national and international levels, as the European continent is at places divided by the range. Since the beginning of industrialization, Switzerland has improved its transalpine network. It began in 1882 by building the Gotthard Rail Tunnel, followed in 1906 by the Simplon Tunnel and 1913 by the Lochberg Tunnel, and more recently, in 2007, by the Lochberg Base Tunnel. The 57.1 kilometers long Gotthard Base Tunnel, the longest railway tunnel of the world, opened in 2016 and provides a direct flat rail link through the Alps. Due to strong political will by the citizenry, Zermatt remains car-free and retains much of its original character. Lausanne is the capital and largest city of the Swiss French-speaking canton of Vaud. It is a hilly city situated on the shores of Lac Léman, about halfway between the Jura Mountains and the Alps, and facing the French town of Evian-les-Bains across the lake. Lausanne is located 62 kilometers northeast of Geneva, the nearest major city. The municipality of Lausanne has a population of about 140,000, making it the fourth largest city in Switzerland after Basel, Geneva, and Zurich, with the entire agglomeration area having about 420,000 people. The metropolitan area of Lausanne-Geneva, including Viva Montreux, Yverdon-les-Bains, Valar, and foreign parts, commonly designated as Arc Lémanique, was over 1.3 million people and is the fastest growing in Switzerland. Initially a Celtic and Roman settlement on the shores of the lake, Lausanne became a town at the foot of Notre Dame, a cathedral built in the 12th century. In the 20th century, Lausanne became a focus of international sport, hosting the International Olympic Committee, which has recognized the city as the Olympic capital since 1994, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and some 55 international sport associations. It lies in a noted wine-growing region. The city has a 28-station metro system, making it the smallest city in the world to have a rapid transit system. Lausanne hosted the 2020 Winter Youth Olympics. The most important geographical feature of the area surrounding Lausanne is Lake Geneva, Le Léman in French. Lausanne is built on the southern slope of the Swiss plateau, with a difference in elevation of about 500 meters between the lakeshore at Ouchy and its northern edge bordering Le Mans-sur-Lausanne and Epelinges. Lausanne boasts a dramatic panorama over the lake and the Swiss and Savoyan Alps. In addition to its generally southward sloping layout, the center of the city is the site of an ancient river, the Flon, which has been covered since the 19th century. The former river forms a gorge running through the middle of the city south of the old city center, generally following the course of the present Rue Centrale, with several bridges crossing the depression to connect the adjacent neighborhoods. Due to the considerable differences in elevation, tourists should make a note as to which plane of elevation they are on and where they want to go, otherwise they will find themselves tens of meters below or above the street in which they are trying to go. The name Flon is also used for the metro station located in the gorge. The municipality includes the villages of Vidi, Cauer, Ouchy, Mornex, Chailly, La Salas, Vens, Montblesson, Verchez-les-Blancs, Mornheron and Chalet-et-Gobet, 871 meters, as well as the exclave of Vernand. Lausanne is located at the limit between the extensive wine-growing regions of Lavaux, to the east, and La Côte, to the west. The Orchestre de Chambre de Lausanne, the Lausanne Opera and the Ensemble Vocal de Lausanne provide a diverse and rich musical life. The latter has been under the direction of Michel Corboz for many years. In January, the Prix de Lausanne, a famous dance competition, takes place at the Palais de Beaulieu, the biggest theatre in Switzerland, over a one-week period. The event attracts dancers and some of the big names in dance from all over the world. The Swiss Film Archive is based in Lausanne, and the city hosts film festivals such as the Festival Cinémas d'Afrique Lausanne and the Lausanne Underground Film and Music Festival. In addition to modern cinemas, the Capitol, in activity since 1929, is the biggest cinema in Switzerland, currently 867 seats. The city hosted the Eurovision Song Contest 1989. Each July, the Festival de la Cite is held in the Old Town. Other music festivals include the Bach Festival, the festival at Conques Bach de Lausanne, which follows the Nuit de Musées, Museum's Night, in the fall season. Lausanne is also the home of the Bijart Ballet. Tourists are drawn to Switzerland's diverse landscape as well as the available activities, which take advantage of the alpine climate and landscapes, in particular skiing and mountaineering. Tourism began in Switzerland with British mountaineers climbing the main peaks of the Bernese Alps in the early 19th century. The Alpine Club in London was founded in 1857. Reconvalescence in the Alpine, in particular from tuberculosis, was another important branch of tourism in the 19th and early 20th centuries, for example in Davos, Graubünden. Due to the prominence of the Bernese Alps in British mountaineering, the Bernese Oberland was long especially known as a tourist destination. Meiringen's Reichenbach Falls achieved literary fame as the site of the fictional death of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, 1893. The first organized tourist holidays to Switzerland were offered during the 19th century by Thomas Cook and Lund travel companies. Tourism in Switzerland had been exclusively for the rich until it became widely popular in the 20th century. Natural regions. Bernese Alps, between the Swiss plateau and Valais, known for its high mountains, notably Eger, Monch and Jungfrau, and huge glacier, notably the Alethe Glacier, and deep valleys with waterfalls like the Lauterbrunnen. Valais Alps, on the left side of the Rhone Valley, contains the highest mountains in the country, notably Monte Rosa and the Matterhorn, and big ski resorts like Zermatt. Gotthard Massif, with the Gotthard Pass at its heart, notable for the historic Gotthard routes, north-south axis, the Matterhorn-Gotthard-Bahn Railway, west-east axis, and the many other high road passes, Nüfenen, Grimsale, Furka, Susten, Clausen, Oberalp and Luckmanier. Lake Lucerne, the largest lake in central Switzerland, notable for the many mountain railways in the surrounding mountains, notably the Rigi and Pilatus Railway. Lake Geneva, the largest lake in the country, notable for the Riviera and the many vineyards. Lake Constance, the second largest lake in the country. Sealand, the region of Lake Neuchatel, Lake Biel and Lake Moret. Jura Mountains, a moderately elevated mountain region north of the Swiss plateau. Rhine, the largest river in the country, is also notable for the Rhine Falls. Italian lakes, a group of lakes on the Italian border, Maggiore and Lugano, notable for being the warmest place in the country. Hiking is one of the main sports activities in Switzerland and is often referred to as the national sport. About 1/3 of the population practice hiking regularly, with a total of 520 million kilometers, in 130 million hours, being traveled every year by the Swiss. Along with cycling, walking, in general, is the preferred form of mobility, regardless of social origins. The total hiking trail network is about 65,000 kilometers. The most visited Swiss tourist attractions are first, the Rhine Falls, second, the Bern Bear exhibit, both without entrance fee, and third, with over 1.8 million paid entries, Zoo Basel. Lucerne is a city in central Switzerland, in the German-speaking portion of the country. Lucerne is the capital of the canton of Lucerne and part of the district of the same name. With a population of approximately 82,000 people, Lucerne is the most populous city in central Switzerland and a nexus of economics, transportation, culture and media in the region. The city's urban area consists of 19 municipalities and towns with an overall population of about 220,000 people. Owing to its location on the shores of Lake Lucerne and its outflow, the River Reuss, within sight of the Mounts Pilatus and Rigi in the Swiss Alps, Lucerne has long been a destination for tourists. One of the city's landmarks is the Chapel Bridge, a wooden bridge first erected in the 14th century. The official language of Lucerne is German, but the main spoken language is the local variant of the Alemannic Swiss-German dialect, Lucerne German. Lucerne is located at the outfall of Lake Lucerne into the River Reuss, which flows from southeast to northwest. The city occupies both banks of the river and the lowest reach of the lake, with the city centre straddling the river immediately downstream of the outfall. The city's suburbs climb the hills to the northeast and southwest, and stretch out along the river and lake banks, whilst the recently added area of Littau is to the northwest. Besides this contiguous city area, the municipality also includes an exclave on the south shore of Lake Lucerne some 8 kilometers away, comprising the northern slopes of the Bergenstock. This section of the municipality is entirely surrounded by the lake and by land of the canton of Nidwalden. It does not contain any significant settlements, but the summit of the Bergenstock is the highest point of the municipality. The municipality has an area of 29.1 square kilometers. Of this area, and as of 2009, 28% is used for agricultural purposes while 22.3% is forested. Of the rest of the land, 47.6% is settled, buildings or roads, and the remainder, 2.1%, is non-productive, rivers, glacier, or mountains. Since the city straddles the Reuss where it drains the lake, it has a number of bridges. These include the Chapel Bridge, Kapellbruck, a 204 meters long wooden covered bridge originally built in 1333, the oldest covered bridge in Europe, although much of it had to be replaced after a fire on the 18th of August, 1993, allegedly caused by a discarded cigarette. Partway across, the bridge runs by the octagonal water tower, Wasserturm, a fortification from the 13th century. Inside the bridge are a series of paintings from the 17th century depicting events from Lucerne's history. Downriver, between the Kasernenplatz and the Mühlenplatz, the Spreuer Bridge, Spreuerbruck or Mühlenbruck, Mill Bridge, zigzags across the Reuss. Constructed in 1408, it features a series of medieval-style 17th century plague paintings by Caspar Meglinger, titled Dance of Death, Totentanzcyklus. The bridge has a small chapel in the middle that was added in 1568. Old Town Lucerne is mainly located just north of the Reuss, and still has several fine half-timber structures with painted fronts. Remnants of the old town walls exist on the hill above Lucerne, complete with 8 tall watchtowers. An additional gated tower sits at the base of the hill on the banks of the Reuss. The twin needle towers of the Church of St. Leodegar, which was named after the city's patron saint, sit on a small hill just above the lakefront. Originally built in 735, the present structure was erected in 1633 in the late Renaissance style. However, the towers are surviving remnants of an earlier structure. The interior is richly decorated. The church is popularly called the Hofkirche in German, and is known locally as the Hofchapel in Swiss German. Bertel Thorvaldsen's carving of a dying lion, the Lion Monument, or Lohendenkmal, is found in a small park just off the Lohenplatz. The carving commemorates the hundreds of Swiss guards who were massacred in 1792 during the French Revolution, when an armed mob stormed the Tuileries Palace in Paris. The Swiss Museum of Transport is a large and comprehensive museum exhibiting all forms of transport, including locomotives, automobiles, ships, and aircraft. It is to be found beside the lake in the northeastern section of the city. The Culture and Convention Center, KKL, beside the lake in the center of the city was designed by Jean Nouvel. The center has one of the world's leading concert halls, with acoustics by Russell Johnson. The Richard Wagner Museum is found on the lake at Tribschen and is dedicated to the composer Richard Wagner. Wagner lived in Lucerne from 1866 to 1872, and his former villa now hosts the museum dedicated to him. Sudpol is a center for performing arts in Lucerne, presenting music, dance and theater events. The house at the foot of Pilatus opened in November 2008. Lucerne is home to the Luzerner Sinfonieorchester, a category A symphonic orchestra, and to the 21st Century Symphony Orchestra, and they both hold most of their performances in the Lucerne Culture and Congress Center. Lucerne is also home to Keramikkonzert, a series of classical chamber music concerts held throughout each year, as well as Zorbasi, a festival dedicated to Russian classical music. Every year, towards the end of winter, Fastnacht, Carnival, breaks out in the streets, alleyways, and squares of the old town. This is a glittering outdoor party, where chaos and merriness reign and nothing is as it normally is. Strange characters in fantastic masks and costumes make their way through the alleyways, while Guggenmusiken, carnival bands, blow their instruments in joyful cacophony and thousands of bizarrely clad people sing and dance away the winter. The Lucerne Fastnacht, based on religious, Catholic backgrounds, starts every year on the Thursday before Aschermittwoch, Ash Wednesday, with a big bang at 5 a.m. called Morgenwacht, Morning Watch. There are big parades in the afternoon on Schmarzig Donnerstag, Ladi Thursday, and the following Monday, called Gutes Montag, Paunch Monday, which attract tens of thousands of people. Lucerne's carnival ends with a crowning finish on Gutes Dienstag, Paunch Tuesday, evening with the Monster Corso, a tremendous parade of Guggenmusiken, lights and lanterns with even a larger audience. Rather recently, a fourth Fastnacht day has been introduced on the Saturday between the others Fastnacht days, the Rudige Samstag, while mainly several indoor balls take place. From dusk till dawn on the evenings of Schmarzig Donnerstag, Gutes Montag, and after the Monster Corso many bands wander through the historical part of the city playing typical Fastnacht tunes. Until midnight, the historical part of the city usually is packed with people participating. A large part of the audience are also dressed up in costumes, even a majority in the evenings. The city hosts various renowned festivals throughout the year. The Lucerne Festival for Classical Music takes place in the summer. Its orchestra, the Lucerne Festival Orchestra, is handpicked from some of the finest instrumentalists in the world. In June yearly, the Pop Music Festival B-Sides takes place in Lucerne. It focuses on international acts in alternative music, indie rock, experimental rock, and other cutting-edge and left-field artistic musical genres. In July, the Blue Balls Festival brings jazz, blues, and punk music to the Lake Promenade and halls of the Culture and Convention Center. The Lucerne Blues Festival is another musical festival which usually takes place in November. Since spring 2004, Lucerne has hosted the festival Rose d'Or for television entertainment. And in April, the well-established comics festival Fumetto attracts an international audience. Being the cultural center of a rather rural region, Lucerne regularly holds different folklore festivals, such as Lucerne Cheese Festival, held annually. In 2004, Lucerne was the focus of Swiss wrestling fans when it had hosted the Swiss Wrestling and Alpine Festival, Eidgenössisches Schwing- und Alplerfest, which takes place every 3 years in a different location. A national music festival, Eidgenössisches Musikfest, attracted marching bands from all parts of Switzerland in 2006. In summer 2008, the yodeling festival, Eidgenössisches Jodlerfest, had a similar impact. A funicular, Gutschbahn, links the city to Chateau Gutsch, 90 meters above. Standseilbahn Hotel Montana runs from the lakefront to Hotel Montana. From 1912 to 1978, there was Diet Schieben at Diet Schiberg. The climatic and cultural diversity of Switzerland is reflected in the diversity of its food products. Various cereals and fruits are cultivated in the lower regions, while the warmest and sunniest areas in the south lend themselves to growing grapes, chestnuts, and even olives. The other most common fruits cultivated in Switzerland are apples, pears, apricots, cherries, plums, and strawberries. The mountainous and coldest areas feature the perhaps most emblematic agricultural practices of Switzerland: dairy farming and alpine transhumance. Swiss cuisine comprises a variety of staple foods. These typically include bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, and polenta. Potatoes are particularly ubiquitous in Swiss cuisine, although it is only the case since the late 18th century. They are notably used in rosti, a popular dish that is eaten all over Switzerland, and originally a breakfast food. Bread and cereals are eaten on a daily basis in Switzerland. Muesli, which is commonly eaten for breakfast, goes by the name of Bircher muesli. For breakfast, most Swiss enjoy sliced bread with butter and jam. Bread also accompanies most meals. There is a wide variety of breads made in Switzerland, from pain de Siegel to Zopf. Tarts and quiches are also traditional Swiss dishes. Tarts in particular are made with all sorts of toppings, from sweet apple to onion. Pork, poultry, and beef are the most consumed meats in Switzerland. Pork is particularly omnipresent in Swiss cuisine, as it both consumed as cooked and cured meat. Swiss meat specialties are highly diversified: all sorts of pork sausages, bratwursts, smoked ham, salami, prosciutto, etc. Famous meat products include Grison's meat, air-dried beef, and the national sausage, Sevelar. Fish is eaten in moderation, traditionally once in a week. Swiss lakes and rivers provide a small fraction of fish and shellfish consumed in the country. These include the popular perch and fira, which are served in lakeshore restaurants. Foods associated with Switzerland often use milk as an essential ingredient. Butter and cream are classic ingredients in Swiss cuisine. They notably include hard cheeses and chocolate. Swiss cheeses, in particular Emmental, Gruyère, Vacherin, and Appenzeller, are famous Swiss products. Two of the most popular Swiss dishes are fondue and raclette, which essentially consist of melted cheese accompanied with bread or potatoes. Chocolate is also strongly associated with Switzerland since the existence of milk chocolate, the Swiss chocolate industry being very flourishing since then. Food preferences vary within Switzerland, often reflecting languages. The German-speaking North and East, the predominant linguistic area, has strong ties with Central Europe, whereas the French-speaking West and the Italian-speaking South tend to have more ties with Western and Mediterranean Europe. This applies notably to starchy foods, dairy products, and fish. While potatoes, rice, and pasta are commonly eaten everywhere in Switzerland, the proportion of pasta and rice is larger in the Italian-speaking regions. Conversely, fats like cream and butter are eaten in larger proportions in the German-speaking regions. Fish is also more commonly eaten in French and Italian-speaking Switzerland. Those differences are also noticeable in wine and beer drinking habits. From the German-speaking part of Switzerland, cuisine area Aargauer Rübletorte mit Zitron and Zuckerguss. Carrot cake, a baked sponge cake made of nuts and carrots. Often spread with a glaze made out of powdered sugar and lemon juice, and decorated with small carrots made of marzipan. Alplurmagronin, Alpine herdsman's macaroni. This dish is a frugal all-in-one dish making use of the ingredients the herdsmen had at hand in their alpine cottages: macaroni, potatoes, onions, small pieces of bacon, and melted cheese. Traditionally, Alplurmagronin is served with applesauce instead of vegetables or salad. Appenzeller Käsefladen. The Appenzeller cheese tart, also called Chassflade, is made with either a bread dough or a yeast dough. The topping consists of Appenzeller cheese, finely chopped onions, eggs, cream and milk, spices to taste. Appenzeller most broccoli. Basler Mehlsuppe. In Basel, flour soup has been eaten early in the morning of Carnival since the 19th century. Flour is roasted dark and deglazed with broth, often served with grated cheese. From the French-speaking part of Switzerland, cuisine are brisoli. Roasted chestnuts served in autumn with local cheeses and meats. Carac. A distinctively green-colored chocolate and short crust pastry. Gâteau Boulois. A walnut pie, comparable to the Bündner Nusstorte, with chocolate. Malakoff, fried cheese balls or sticks from the region of Lavaux in the canton of Vaud. Meringue, a dessert made of whipped egg whites, traditionally accompanied by double Gruyère cream. Papet vaudoise. The canton of Vaud is home to this filling dish of leeks and potatoes. It is usually served with saucis au chou, cabbage sausage. Longueole, a sausage from the canton of Geneva made of pork and filled with fennel seeds. From the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland cuisine. The Italian-speaking part of Switzerland essentially coincides with Ticino, but also with the southern valleys of Graubünden. Popular dishes are polenta and risotto, often accompanied by the Luganai and Luganigetta, a type of artisan sausages. Typical food from Ticino can be found in a grotto, the local type of restaurant. Chestnut is also a historical staple food of southern Switzerland. The chestnut tree, introduced there 2,000 years ago, was referred to as the bread tree. Another specific product of Ticino is olive oil. Olive cultivation was revived in the late 20th century. From the canton of Graubünden cuisine. Bündner Nusstorte. There are several different regional recipes for nut cake, but the most famous is probably the one from the Engadin Valley in the canton of Graubünden. Bündner Fleisch. Chur meat pie. Bündner barley soup, the most famous soup from Graubünden. Cappens, typical speciality of western Graubünden. Malins. Piszikel with cabbage. Piszikel were eaten in a wide variety of ways. In some places when eaten by themselves they are known in Romansh as Bizzikels Bluts, or bald Piszikel. If someone leaves a small amount of any kind of food on the serving dish for politeness' sake, in the Engadine this is called Farsko kwel dal bijzokkel, meaning more or less leaving the last Piszikel. Wine is produced in many regions of Switzerland, particularly the Valais, the Vaud, the Geneva, the Ticino, the Neuchâtel and the Zurich cantons. Wine economy notably shaped the landscapes of Valais and the Lavaux, which have the most extensive terraced vineyards. Riesling ex Sylvaner is a common white wine produced in German-speaking parts of the country, while Chasselas is the most common white wine in the French-speaking parts of the country, where it can also be known as Fendant, in the Valais, and Palan, in Geneva. Pinot Noir is the most popular red grape in both the French-speaking and the German-speaking part, while this position is held by Merlot in the Italian-speaking part. The best-known traditional holiday in the city is the Sechsaluten, Saxalute, including a parade of the guilds and the burning of winter in effigy at the Sechsalutenplatz. During this festival, the popular march known as the Sechsalutenmarsch is played. It has no known composer but likely originated in Russia. Another is the Nebenschießen target shooting competition for teenagers, originally boys, open to female participants since 1991. The Theatre am Neumarkt is one of the oldest theatres of the city. Established by the old guilds in the Old City district, it is located in a Baroque palace near Niederdorf Street. It has two stages staging mostly avant-garde works by European directors. The Zürcher Theatre Spektakel is an international theatre festival, featuring contemporary performing arts. Zurich is host city of the street parade, which takes place in August every year. The most famous districts for nightlife are the Niederdorf in the Old Town with bars, restaurants, lounges, hotels, clubs and a lot of fashion shops for a young and stylish public, and the Langstrasse in the districts 4 and 5 of the city. There are authentic amusements, bars, punk clubs, hip-hop stages, Caribbean restaurants, art house cinemas, Turkish kebabs and Italian espresso bars. In the past 10 years, new parts of the city have risen into the spotlight. Notably, the area known as Zurich West in District 5, near the Escherweiss Square and the S-Bahn station of Zurich Hardbrück. is a municipality in the district of Visp in the German-speaking section of the canton of Valais in Switzerland. It has a year-round population of about 5,800 and is classified as a town by the Swiss Federal Statistical Office. It lies at the upper end of Matterhorn at an elevation of 1,620 meters, at the foot of Switzerland's highest peaks. It lies about 10 kilometers from the over 3,292 meters high Theodule Pass bordering Italy. Zermatt is the southernmost commune of the German Sprachraum. Zermatt is famed as a mountaineering and ski resort of the Swiss Alps. Until the mid-19th century, it was predominantly an agricultural community. The first and tragic ascent of the Matterhorn in 1865 was followed by a rush on the mountains surrounding the village, leading to the construction of many tourist facilities. The year-round population as of December 2020 is 5,820, though there may be several times as many tourists in Zermatt at any one time. Much of the local economy is based on tourism, with about half of the jobs in town in hotels or restaurants, and just under half of all apartments are vacation apartments. Just over one-third of the permanent population was born in the town, while another third moved to Zermatt from outside Switzerland. The town of Zermatt lies at the southern end of the Matter Valley, which is one of the lateral branches of the Grand Valley of the Rhone. Zermatt is almost completely surrounded by the high mountains of the Pennine Alps, including Monte Rosa, specifically its tallest peak, named Dufourspitz, Switzerland's highest peak at 4,634 meters above sea level. It is followed by the Dom, 4,545 meters, Liskam, 4,527 meters, Weisshorn, 4,505 meters, and the Matterhorn, 4,478 meters. Most of the Alpine 4000ers are located around Zermatt or in the neighboring valleys. Zermatt is traversed by the main river of the valley, the Matter Vispa, which rises at the glacier at the feet of the highest peaks, the Gorner Glacier on the east side near Monte Rosa, and the Zmutt Glacier on the west side between Dent des Herens and Dent Blanche. The town of Zermatt, while dense, is geographically small. There are three main streets which run along the banks of the Matter Vispa, and numerous cross streets, especially around the station and the church which forms the center of Zermatt. In general, anything is at most a 30-minute walk away. There are several suburbs within Zermatt. Winkelmatten or Moos, which was once a separate hamlet, lies on a hill, 1,670 meters, on the southern side. Steinmatten is located on the eastern bank of the main river. Many hamlets are located in the valleys above Zermatt, however they are not usually inhabited all year round. Zumsee, 1,766 meters, lies south of Zermatt on the west bank of the Gorner Gorge, near Fury, where a cable car station is located, 1,867 meters. On the side of Zmutt Valley, west of Zermatt, lies the hamlet of Zmutt, 1,936 meters, north of the creek Zmuttbach. Findeln, 2,051 meters, is located in the eastern valley above the creek Findelbach. It lies below the Sunega station, 2,278 meters. Located near a train station of the Gornergratbahn, Rifflaup, 2,222 meters, is one of the highest hamlets with a chapel. Zermatt had an area of 242.91 kilometers square. Of this area, about 9.4% is used for agricultural purposes, while 4.6% is forested. Of the rest of the land, 0.8% is settled, buildings or roads, and 85.2% is unproductive land. Over the past 2 decades, amount of land that is settled has increased by 54 hectares and agricultural land has decreased by 160 hectares. The village was discovered by mid-19th century British mountaineers, most notably Edward Whymper, whose summit of Matterhorn made the village famous. The Matterhorn was one of the last alpine mountains to be summited, in 1865, and first expedition that reached the top ended dramatically with only 3 of the 7 climbers surviving the descent. The story is related in Matterhorn Museum. Zermatt is a starting point for hikes into the mountains, including Haute Route that leads to Chamonix in France and Pétrole des Glaciers. Cable cars and chair lifts carry skiers in the winter and hikers in the summer. The highest of them leads to Klein Matterhorn at 3,883 meters, a peak on the ridge between Braithorn and Matterhorn that offers extensive views in all directions. It is possible to cross into Italy via Cervinia cable car station. A rack railway line, Gornergratbahn, the highest open-air railway in Europe, runs up to the summit of Gornergrat at 3,089 meters. Zermatt is also the western terminus for Glacier Express rail service connecting to St. Moritz and MGB, Matterhorn Gotthardbahn. Together with 11 other towns, Zermatt is a member of the community Best of the Alps. To prevent air pollution that could obscure town's view of Matterhorn, the entire town is a combustion engine car-free zone. Almost all vehicles in Zermatt are battery-driven and almost completely silent. Electric vehicles are allowed for local commerce. The cantonal police can issue a permit which allows residents to drive and park at northern outskirts and for permission to bring combustion engine vehicles into the town, such as construction vehicles. Emergency and municipal vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances, police, generally use combustion engines, although even some of these are non-combustion, garbage trucks. Passenger vehicles operating within Zermatt include small electric shuttles provided by hotels to carry visitors from main train station or taxi transfer point just outside town to hotel properties, electrotaxis operated by 4 major Zermatt families, and electrobuses, which serve 2 routes. One between major hotel areas and stations of various ski lifts, and the other following a similar route but serving more rural suburb of Winkelmatten. Horse-drawn carriages can also be found. Some are operated by hotels and others available for hire. Most visitors reach Zermatt by rack-assisted railway train from nearby town of Tasch, Zermatt Shuttle. Trains also depart for Zermatt from farther down the valley at Visp and Brig, which are on the main Swiss rail network. The town also has a heliport and a local helicopter operator, Air Zermatt, which also provides alpine rescue services. The nearest airports for international air travelers to Zermatt from Switzerland are Sion Airport, 85 kilometers away from the resort, Zurich Airport, around 250 kilometers away, and Geneva Airport, also 250 kilometers away. Other nearby airports in Italy include Milan Malpensa, around 180 kilometers from Zermatt, and Milan Linate, almost 255 kilometers away. Zermatt is known worldwide for its skiing, especially Trifgis moguls. The high altitude results in consistent skiing throughout summer. Skiing in Zermatt is split up into 4 areas: Sunega, Gornergrat, Klein Matterhorn, and Schwarzsee. There is also a connection to Cervinia and Valternench in Italy through Plateau Rossa Glacier. The Sunega Paradise is accessed via Sunega Express funicular railway, followed by a gondola to Blauherd and finally a cable car onwards Rothorn, 3,130 meters. The topography of the mountain and the valley tends to keep Rothorn clear and sunny, even when Zermatt is submerged in cloud. From Blauherd there is a gondola down to Gant, and from there a connecting cable car goes to Hotali. This cable car and the newer 4-seat chairlift Sunega Findeln Breitboden provide connections between Sunega and Gornergrat. With few steep slopes, this mountain is often used to train younger skiers. The Gornergrat is served by the Gornergrat Railway, a 29-minute ride to the Gornergrat Peak, 3,089 meters, via Rifflaup, Rotenboden and Riffelberg, with limited stops at Findelbach and Land Tunnel just above Zermatt. At the summit, the hotel and restaurant have been refurbished and accommodate a shopping center. Rifflaup station is linked to Rifflaup Resort by a short tramway line named Riffelalptram. A cable car heads up from Hotali to the Rotenays, 3,247 meters. This final lift serves a free ride area but can be unreliable as this mountainside requires good snow cover to be skiable. The lifts in this area generally open for the season in late February or early March. Cable car is now permanently closed, with no replacement lift planned. A new slope leading back from Hotali to Kellensee just under the Gornergrat replaced this lift to maintain the link from the Rothorn to Gornergrat. Near the southern end of Zermatt, the Matterhorn Express gondola transports passengers up to the interchange station at Fury. From here there is access to Schwarzsee via a gondola to the right, a cable car that leads onto the Trockener Stegmid station, and then onto the Klein Matterhorn, and a new gondola, opened on the 18th of December, 2006, links Fury to Riffelberg on the Gornergrat mountain. This lift addresses one of the most persistent criticisms of Zermatt, that it is very difficult to ski the two sides of the valley without a tiresome trek through Zermatt between the Gorner Gratbahn and the Matterhorn Express at opposite ends of the town. Testa Grigia at the top of the Theodule Pass serves as a connection to the Italian ski resorts of Cervinia and Val Tenerife. From the Swiss side it is reachable by ski lift only, but from the Italian side by a chairlift and by a cable car. In March 2019 it was announced that a new lift alpine crossing will connect Testa Grigia and Klein Matterhorn from spring 2021. There are customs offices here as well as a small alpine museum. Zermatt is marketed as an all-year skiing resort, with summer skiing limited to the Theodule Glacier behind the Klein Matterhorn. Whilst strictly true, during the off-season in May and June there will tend to be only 1 or 2 runs open, and the main glacier area does not open until July. In operation since the 25th of October, 2003, the Fergsattel 6-seater chairlift has 12, of 18, masts that stand directly on the glacial ice of the Theodule Glacier, a first for Switzerland. The 52 million Swiss francs 3S Glacier ride cable car from the resort to Klein Matterhorn was opened on the 29th of September, 2018. It has an uplift capacity of 2,000 people per hour and takes just 9 minutes to reach the top using 25 cabins, each with 28 seats. Zurich is the largest city in Switzerland and the capital of the canton of Zurich. It is located in north-central Switzerland, at the northwestern tip of Lake Zurich. As of January 2023, the municipality had 443,037 people, the urban area 1.315 million and the Zurich metropolitan area 1.83 million. Zurich is a hub for railways, roads, and air traffic. Both Zurich Airport and Zurich's main railway station are the largest and busiest in the country. Permanently settled for over 2,000 years, Zurich was founded by the Romans, who called it Turicum. However, early settlements have been found dating back more than 6,400 years, although this only indicates human presence in the area and not the presence of a town that early. During the Middle Ages, Zurich gained the independent and privileged status of imperial immediacy and, in 1519, became a primary centre of the Protestant Reformation in Europe under the leadership of Huldrych Zwingli. The official language of Zurich is German, but the main spoken language is Zurich German, the local variant of the Alemannic Swiss German dialect. As one of Switzerland's primary financial centres, Zurich is home to many financial institutions and banking companies. Many museums and art galleries can be found in the city, including the Swiss National Museum and Kunsthaus. Schauspielhaus Zurich is generally considered to be one of the most important theatres in the German-speaking world. The municipality of Zurich has an area of 91.88 km square, of which 4.1 km square is made up of Lake Zurich. The area includes a section of the northern Swiss plateau. The banks of the Limmat constitute the densest part of the city. The river is oriented in the southeast-northwest direction, with the flat valley floor having a width of 2 to 3 kilometers. The partially channeled and straightened Limmat does not flow in the central part of the valley, but always along its right, northeastern, side. The Sill meets with the Limmat at the end of Platzspitz, which borders the Swiss National Museum. The Limmat reaches the lowest point of the municipality in Oberingstringen at 392 meters above sea level. On its west side, the Limmat Valley is flanked by the wooded heights of the Albis chain, which runs along the western border. The Uetliberg is, with 869 meters above sea level, the highest elevation of the surrounding area. Its summit can be reached easily by the Uetliben. From the platform of the observation tower on the summit, an impressive panorama of the city, the lake, and the Alps can be seen. The northeast side of the Limmat Valley includes a range of hills, which marks the watershed between the Limmat and the Glatt. The northernmost part of the municipality extends to the plain of the Glatt Valley and to the saddle, which makes the connection between the Glattal and Fertile. Also, a part of the Katzen Sea, Nature Reserve, and the Bissy Sea, both of which are drained by the Katzenbach to Glatt, belong to the city. The areas surrounding the Limmat are almost completely developed with residential, industrial, and commercial zones. The sunny and desirable residential areas in the hills overlooking Zurich, Waidberg and Zurichberg, and the bottom part of the slope on the western side of the valley on the Uetliberg, are also densely built. The green lungs of the city include the vast forest areas of Adlersberg, Zurichberg, Käferberg, Hongerberg and Uetliberg. Major parks are also located along the lakeshore, Zurichhorn and Enge, while smaller parks dot the city. Larger contiguous agricultural lands are located near Affoltern and Seebark. Public transport is extremely popular in Zurich, and people use public transport in large numbers. About 70% of the visitors to the city use the tram or bus, and about half of the journeys within the municipality take place on public transport. Zurich Airport is located less than 10 kilometers northeast of the city in Kloten. Zurich Airport has its own railway station, which is located underground. It is directly connected to Zurich and most of the major Swiss cities. Zurich Airport is served by more than 60 passenger airlines from around the world. It is also served by one cargo airline and is a hub for Swiss international airlines. There is also an airfield in Dubendorf. There are 421,878 people living in Zurich as of the 31st of December, 2020, making it Switzerland's largest city. Of registered inhabitants in 2016, 32%, 133,473, do not hold Swiss citizenship. Of these, German citizens make up the largest group with 8%, 33,548, followed by Italians 3.5%, 14,543. As of 2011, the population of the city, including suburbs, totaled 1.17 million people. The entire metropolitan area, including the cities of Winterthur, Baden, Brugg, Schaffhausen, Frauenfeld, Uster or Wetzikon, Rapperswil-Jona, and Zug, had a population of around 1.82 million people. Most of Zurich's sites are located within the area on either side of the Limmat, between the main railway station and Lake Zurich. The churches and houses of the old town are clustered here, as are the most expensive shops along the famous Bahnhofstrasse. The Lindenhof in the Old Town is the historical site of the Roman castle and the later Carolingian imperial palace. Compared to other cities, there are few tall buildings in Zurich. The municipal building regulations limit the construction of high-rise buildings to areas in the west and north of the city. In the industrial district, Altstetten and Interlaken, buildings up to 80 meters in height are allowed. In the adjacent high-rise areas 2 and 3, the height is limited to 40 meters. Around the year 2000, regulations became more flexible and high-rise buildings were again planned and built. At this time in Zurich, about a dozen high-rise buildings were under construction or in planning, including the Prime Tower as the tallest skyscraper in Switzerland at the time of its construction. There are numerous examples of brutalist buildings throughout the city, including the Swiss Mill Tower, which, at 118 meters, is the world's tallest grain silo. The Zurich Film Festival is an international film festival, lasting 11 days and featuring popular international productions. One of the largest and most popular annual events in Zurich is the Street Parade, which is also one of the largest techno and dance music festivals in the world. Proceeding along the side of Lake Zurich, it is normally held on the second Saturday in August. The first edition was held in 1992 with about 1,000 participants. By 2001, the event attracted 1 million participants. The Zurifest, on the other hand, is a triennial public festival. It features music, fireworks set to music and other attractions throughout the Old Town. It is the largest public festival in Switzerland and attracts up to 2 million visitors. The Kunst Zurich is an international contemporary art fair with an annual guest city. It combines most recent arts with the works of well-established artists. Another annual public art exhibit is the City Campaign, sponsored by the City Vereinigung, the local equivalent of a chamber of commerce, with the cooperation of the city government. It consists of decorated sculptures distributed over the city centre, in public places. Past themes have included lions, 1986, cows, 1998, benches, 2003, teddy bears, 2005, and huge flower pots, 2009. From this originated the concept of the cow parade that has been featured in other major world cities. Traditionally, Alphorn was made of one piece, or two parts at most, of the wood of a red pine tree. Modern Alphorns are made from the wood of a spruce tree or fir tree. The Alphorn is used by mountain dwellers in the Swiss Alps. Similar wooden horns were used for communication in most mountainous regions of Europe from Alps to the Carpathians. Alphorns are used as musical instruments today. The Swiss Alphorn varies in shape according to the locality, being curved near the bell in the Bernese Oberland. The well-known Ranz des Vox, score, audio, dead link, is a traditional Swiss melody often heard on the Alphorn. The song describes the time of bringing the cows to the high country at milk-making time. The Alphorn is prominently featured in advertisements for Ricola cough drops, which are manufactured in Laufen, Switzerland. Carnival of Basel, German, Basler Fastnacht. Biggest carnival in Switzerland and main Protestant carnival in the world. Takes place annually between February and March in Basel. Gruyere cheese. Fondue is a dish of several hard cheeses, Gruyere and Vacherin, melted with white wine and eaten hot with bread. Rosti is fried potato cake served as a main course or side dish. As a main dish, rosti accompanied with cheese, onions, and cold meat or eggs. Originally from Zurich, made by frying grated raw potatoes in a pan. It's spread to burn where it is made with boiled potatoes. Raclette is a dish of melted cheese, originating from Valais. Traditionally, half a cheese wheel is heated on the cut side, and as it melts, the cheese is scraped off onto a plate. Served with skin-on potatoes and mixed pickles and accompanied by fendant drink. Bündnerfleisch, Grisons meat or Viande des Grisons, air-dried meat produced in canton of Graubünden, Switzerland. Pizza Carey. Tagliatelle, flat ribbon pasta, made with buckwheat flour and wheat flour. Originated in Valtellina, Lombardy. Popular in Val Poschiavo, a side valley of Valtellina in Swiss canton of Grisons. Swiss bread baked for Switzerland National Day. Swiss chocolates. Switzerland renowned for milk chocolate, most consumed type of chocolate. In 1875, Swiss confectioner Daniel Peter developed first solid milk chocolate using condensed milk invented by Henri Nestlé, Peter's neighbor in Vevey. Although partly developed outside Switzerland, white and ruby chocolate were invented by Swiss-based chocolate manufacturers Nestlé and Barry Callebaut in 1936 and 2017 respectively. Swiss watch. Swiss law considers a watch to be Swiss-made if its technical development is carried out in Switzerland, its movement is Swiss, its movement is cased up in Switzerland, final inspection of the watch is conducted by manufacturer in Switzerland, at least 60% of the manufacturing costs are incurred in Switzerland.